Walking a high wire is like a masterclass in extreme balance.
Oh, absolutely. It takes an incredible amount of focus.
Right. And in the modern romance publishing industry, uh, author Mekayla York is walking maybe the most dangerous tightrope of all.
She really is. It's a very tricky line to walk.
Because she is seamlessly blending these high stakes, magical, and even like notorious internet niche romance tropes with a very deep, unwavering Christian faith.
Which is not something you see every day.
Not at all. So, welcome to today's deep dive. If you've been looking for a shortcut to discovering a fantastic new author, someone who proves that clean romance doesn't mean sacrificing emotional depth or, high stakes, we have quite the mission for you today.
We really do. We've been going through a massive stack of sources for this one.
Yeah, we're pulling from excerpts from 4 of York's novels. We've got Checked Out by Love, Baked Fresh, Snowbound Souls, and Spirit Night.
Plus a lot of her personal author notes and bios, which are fascinating.
Exactly. And our goal today is to unpack exactly what makes her books so fiercely engaging and, how she manages to completely redefine what it means to write modern romance.
It's just an incredibly ambitious literary project she's undertaking.
I mean, where do you even start with something like this?
Well, to really understand the storytelling, you have to understand the foundation she's building on. So York is 29 years old. She's currently pursuing a degree in library science, and she works in elementary education.
Wow, okay, so she's constantly surrounded by books and learning.
Right. Her daily life is completely steeped in literature, community building, and foundational learning.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah. And when you pair that background with her Christian faith, you get an author who isn't just writing pure escapism. I mean, she's writing narratives built on the bedrock of intentional, purposeful relationships.
Which is such a sharp contrast to what dominates the romance market right now.
Oh, it's completely different from the current mainstream trends.
Right. Like, if you look at the bestseller list today, it feels like this really rigid binary choice.
It really does. You basically have two camps.
Yeah. On one side, you have the mainstream market, which is heavily leaning into highly explicit content, lots of spice, and often these really toxic relationship dynamics just to like artificially inflate the drama.
Exactly. Just conflict for the sake of conflict.
Right. And then on the other side, you have traditional Christian fiction, which, let's be honest, can sometimes lean so far into the moral message that the characters end up feeling like cardboard cutouts.
Yeah, the romantic tension gets completely sanitized away.
It's like they aren't even real people anymore.
Well, it's the classic trap of prioritizing the sermon over the story.
Ooh, prioritizing the sermon over the story. I like that.
Thanks. But it's true. Readers can smell an agenda from a mile away. If the characters don't feel like real, flawed human beings who are navigating genuine temptation and struggle, the audience just checks out.
Yeah, they put the book down.
Exactly. And what makes Mekayla York's work so compelling is that she doesn't shy away from the ugly parts of human nature, or the intense pull of romantic attraction, for that matter.
She actually tackles them head on, right?
She does, but she filters the resolution of those things through a lens of grace rather than instant gratification.
Okay, let's actually look at how she does that in her contemporary romance, Checked Out by Love, because she starts that book by tackling a deeply painful, very real-world issue.
Spiritual hypocrisy. It's a heavy topic.
It is. So we follow the protagonist, Quinn Davis. Now, Quinn was raised by her Nana to be the ultimate Proverbs 31 woman, clothed with strength and dignity.
Which is a huge weight to carry.
Exactly. And for you listening, if you aren't familiar with that specific cultural touchstone, it's a biblical archetype. In modern purity culture, it often translates it to this immense, crushing pressure to be the flawless, silent, endlessly giving partner.
Yeah, the cultural weight of that archetype is absolutely vital to understanding Quinn's psychological state at the beginning of the novel.
Because she thinks she is doing everything right, doesn't she?
She really does. She's engaged to Gary. Gary is charming. He holds a very prominent standing in his church community, and he knows exactly how to talk the talk when it comes to faith.
Oh, we all know a Gary.
Right. But York shows us the terrifying reality of what happens when that Proverbs 31 expectation is weaponized by a partner. Because behind closed doors, Gary is using his religion as an impenetrable shield for narcissistic abuse.
It's so hard to read. He controls her finances. He dictates what she wears.
He constantly belittles her background, too.
Yes, reminding her she's from the wrong side of town and supposedly isn't good enough for his pristine, reputation-obsessed family. It's like this cheap veneer on a particle board table. It looks shiny until you accidentally chip it.
That is a perfect way to describe Gary. Just a cheap veneer.
And the blindfold finally rips off for Quinn when she catches Gary inside their own home, mind you, cheating on her with his assistant, Natalie.
And Gary's reaction to getting caught is just, it's
Yeah.
wild.
It's infuriating. His immediate instinctual reaction when he is caught literally red-handed, he yells, "What will people at church think?"
Ooh, I'm sorry, I've ruined our relationship.
No, just what will people think? It makes you want to throw the book across the room.
It's a visceral reaction because it perfectly encapsulates the danger of performative religion. Gary doesn't care about his covenant with Quinn, and he certainly doesn't care about his relationship with God.
He only cares about the optics.
Exactly. He only cares about how things look. He represents the toxic core of prioritizing outward piety over inward character.
Right. But here is my issue with traditional Christian fiction tackling this kind of trauma. Usually the author just has the protagonist like pray a bit, read a Bible verse, and suddenly they are completely healed.
Which is incredibly unrealistic.
It feels cheap, and it feels unearned to a reader who has actually experienced that kind of manipulation. So how does York use the actual structure of a romance novel to teach the reader about spiritual discernment without sounding preachy?
Well, she does it by making the theology the mechanism for the romance. It's entirely character-driven.
Walk me through that.
So, after the fallout with Gary, Quinn gets a job as an assistant librarian at the Gear Private Library, which is owned by Daniel.
Ah, Daniel, the romantic lead.
Yes. Now, Daniel is wealthy, he's protective, and he is immediately drawn to Quinn. But York uses him as a direct foil to Gary.
So,
Where Gary weaponized religion to control Quinn, Daniel uses his faith to serve her. We see this brilliantly illustrated in this one scene where someone breaks into Quinn's apartment and leaves a threatening Bible verse.
which is such a clear intimidation tactic from Gary's camp.
Exactly. And Daniel's reaction is what sets him completely apart.
Because in a standard mainstream romance, the wealthy, protective billionaire would immediately, move the protagonist into his penthouse.
Right. He'd hire private security, take her phone.
Yeah, he'd essentially lock her away in a gilded cage. He would take over her life under the guise of protecting her, which, ironically, is exactly what Gary was doing, just with a different aesthetic.
Yes. You've hit on the exact psychological mechanism York is subverting there.
Oh, wow, I didn't even realize that parallel.
It's brilliant. Daniel doesn't strip Quinn of her agency. Instead, York writes a scene where Daniel stands outside in the cool night air and he just prays.
He prays.
Yeah, he asks God for wisdom. He prays for the strength to be the man Quinn needs to navigate the situation without overstepping and to protect her emotionally as well as physically.
Let's talk about why that works so well as a romantic beat, because on paper, a guy standing outside praying doesn't exactly scream swoon-worthy romance, you know?
Right. It doesn't sound like typical romance material.
But in the context of the story, intimacy is built on vulnerability. When Daniel prays, York is giving the reader direct access to his deepest, most vulnerable thoughts.
We see his internal struggle.
Yeah, and his desire to do right by her. That creates a level of psychological intimacy that hits the reader much harder than, say, a physical scene would at that point in the narrative.
Absolutely. It proves that he views her as a partner to be respected, not a possession to be managed.
Which is everything Quinn needs right then.
Exactly. And he pairs that spiritual respect with incredibly practical, thoughtful action. He does set up security cameras at the library to ensure she feels safe in her workspace, but he doesn't invade her personal autonomy at home.
And he also buys her a gorgeous dress that actually has pockets. I have to bring that up because the man understands what women actually want.
The pockets are crucial.
They really are. It's such a small detail, but it shows he pays attention to her practical, everyday needs, not just treating her like a doll to dress up for country club dinners.
It's a brilliant juxtaposition. By allowing the reader to experience Daniel's servant-hearted, genuine connection alongside Quinn, York is actively demonstrating what spiritual discernment looks like.
Showing, not telling.
Right. She's teaching the reader that a truly Christ-centered relationship isn't about maintaining a flawless public image like Gary did. It's about patience, respect, and mutual grace in the quiet moments.
Okay, so if Gary represents the real-world danger of weaponizing religion to control someone, how does York handle actual literal weapons and magic?
Ah, yes, the fantasy genre.
Because this is where the deep dive gets really fascinating for me. It is one thing to explore biblical values in a contemporary setting in Charleston. It is entirely another thing to maintain those convictions when you introduce witches, vampires, and magical ley
A
lines.
huge leap.
It is. Historically, supernatural elements clash entirely with traditional Christian media. Which brings us to York's fantasy universe, Tales from Easthallow.
Yes, the East Allo series is where her world-building truly takes flight.
Tell me about Easthallow.
It's framed as this cozy, enchanted small town where magic practically rises with the morning fog. York gives us multiple lenses into this universe across different books.
Like in Baked Fresh.
Right. In Baked Fresh, we follow Brooke Hale, who is a witch that runs Spellbound Suites,
Hmm.
and Callum Hawthorne, a brooding warlock librarian who has been secretly in love with her for years.
A brooding warlock librarian. I love that so much.
It's fantastic. Then, in Snowbound Souls, the tone shifts slightly. We meet Hazel, who runs the Hearthstone Inn, and Kyrian Defoe, the grumpy, incredibly powerful CEO of the Winter Court.
I have to challenge the premise here, though, because the supernatural romance genre is largely built on the appeal of a complete loss of control.
What do you mean by that?
Well, tropes like fated mates or magical soul bonds are specifically designed to bypass the slow burn of emotional development. They throw characters straight into explosive, explicit physical relationships.
The magic made me do it trope.
Exactly. If you strip out that physical dominance in the spice and replace it with a Christian worldview, doesn't it ruin the entire point of the genre? Doesn't it render the fated mate trope completely toothless?
You would assume that, but York flips the mechanism to achieve the exact opposite effect. It radically heightens the emotional and spiritual stakes.
Really?
You're right that fated mates are typically used as a biological imperative to excuse impulsive behavior. But York takes that exact same concept, an undeniable magical bond, and reframes it as a reflection of divine design.
Okay, walk me through how that actually works on the page. Let's look at Snowbound Souls with Hazel and Kyrian.
Sure, so in that novel, Hazel suddenly develops a mate mark, a glowing, icy silver snowflake that appears on her throat, permanently binding her to Kyrian.
And in any other supernatural romance, this would be page one of a very explicit, uncontrollable weekend.
Exactly. But in East Allo, this mark isn't a physical compulsion. It's a sacred calling.
A sacred calling.
Yeah, Kyrian actually has this incredible line where he tells Hazel, mate marks aren't random, they're sacred, they're rare. They're practically a spiritual marriage, Hazel. God doesn't make mistakes with them.
Wow, that line fundamentally changes the rules of engagement.
It really does.
Because if the magic isn't just a biological hormone surge, but rather a spiritual marriage ordained by God, you have to treat it with immense reverence.
Precisely. And that reverence is where York derives her narrative tension. Despite this powerful magical bond and the intense emotional pull they feel toward one another, Hazel and Kyrian decide to wait until marriage to sleep together.
Wait, really? In a fated mates book?
Yes, they choose to honor the spiritual weight of the bond rather than just submitting to the physical convenience of it.
The tension that creates must be phenomenal.
Oh, it is off the charts.
Because, readers of romance love the fated mate trope because it removes the anxiety of choice. These two are meant to be together from the start.
Right, there's no love triangle stress.
But York adds a different kind of anxiety back into the mix. The anxiety of restraint.
Which is so compelling to read.
Hazel even jokes about it at one point, doesn't she? Telling Kyrian, I'm waiting until marriage, not until the apocalypse.
Yes. She's self-aware about it. And they still share incredible intimacy. They cuddle. They share quiet moments. And he fiercely protects her from the Crimson Oath vampires and the political villains of the Winter Court.
So the action and the stakes are still very much there.
Completely. But there is this profound, unbreakable boundary of respect between them. It proves to the publishing industry that you do not need explicit content to write a swoon-worthy, high-stakes romance.
Because the restraint is the point.
Yes. When restraint is born out of faith and mutual respect, it makes the eventual payoff, in this case their wedding day, exponentially more resonant.
The reader feels the weight of that emotional victory.
Because they watch the characters actively choose discipline over instinct. York treats community and fated bonds as sacred trusts, not disposable plot devices.
That is so beautifully put. And speaking of subverting inherently explicit tropes, we have to talk about the absolute wildest part of York's bibliography.
I knew we were going to get to this.
We have to. When I saw the words Christian Omegaverse in our research notes for today, I genuinely thought it was a typo.
A lot of people probably would.
Because if you listening have never stumbled into the Omegaverse side of the internet, it is traditionally a highly explicit, intensely dark subgenre.
Very dark. Very intense.
It is built entirely around rigid biological hierarchies of toxic dominance and utter submission. Taking the Omegaverse and filtering it through a Christian lens it feels
And
impossible.
it sounds like an oxymoron.
It's like taking the engine of a high-speed getaway car, ripping it out, and using it to power a community hospital.
That is such a good analogy.
Right. You're using the exact same high-octane mechanics, but funneling all that power into healing instead of chaos.
That is exactly what she's doing. It is undoubtedly her most ambitious creative swing, and we see it fully realized in the novel Spirit Night.
Okay, tell us about Spirit Night.
So we are introduced to Ilaria, a witch who is revealed to be an Omega, and Jude Rowan, a powerful alpha shifter.
Classic Omegaverse setup.
On the surface, yes. But what's fascinating is that York includes specific author notes for this book, directly addressing the reader to explain her reimagined hierarchy.
Because she knows the cultural baggage the genre carries.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She explicitly states her intention to remove the elements of toxic dominance and uncontrollable desire, replacing them with a framework of divine purpose.
Let's break down those author notes because they are a masterclass in trope subversion.
Let's do it.
So, in traditional Omegaverse, alphas are aggressive, controlling dictators, and Omegas are weak, submissive, and exist solely for, well, breeding.
Right, they have no agency.
But York completely rewrites the job descriptions. She writes that her alphas are steady protectors. They are charged with guarding those entrusted to them, leading with humility rather than force.
Humility is key there.
Yes, and betas are the peacemakers and the bridge builders of the pack. And Omegas, this is my favorite part, aren't weak at all.
Not even a little bit.
They are nurturers gifted with profound empathy and intuition, designed to unite and heal a fractured community.
York recognizes that true empathy requires immense emotional strength, and Omega in her universe is the emotional anchor of the pack.
Which is beautiful, but it raises a fascinating, critical question about genre expectations.
Oh, for sure.
If you remove the biological loss of control, the physical dominance, and the intense spice that the genre is practically synonymous with, is it even still the Omegaverse? Aren't you just writing a standard werewolf pack story at that point?
That's a fair question.
Yeah.
But the answer is it absolutely is still the Omegaverse. The psychological appeal remains identical, but the execution is elevated.
Explain that. What is the psychological appeal, if not the dominance?
Well, you have to ask yourself why readers flock to the Omegaverse in the first place. The psychological itch of the genre is the desire to let go of the steering wheel.
Letting someone else take over.
Right. It's the fantasy of stepping into a preordained role where you belong completely and unconditionally to a group.
Ah, the ultimate belonging.
Yes. Now, traditional Omegaverse achieves this through biological force hormones, and biology stripped the characters of their choices. York keeps the concept of surrendering control, but she changes who is driving.
Oh, wow.
Instead of surrendering to biology, her characters are surrendering to a divine calling.
Ah, so it scratches the exact same psychological itch, but leaves the reader feeling uplifted rather than compromised.
Yes, she retains all the core mechanics that readers love. The undeniable fated bonds, the deep interconnected pack dynamics, the intrinsic personality traits of alphas and omegas.
The mechanics are all there.
They are. But she reframes them so that a character's identity isn't about power dynamics, it is about their specific calling within God's design. The bonds in Spirit Night are rooted in loyalty, encouragement, and the profound belief that God brings people together to fulfill a specific purpose.
We see that so clearly with Jude and Ilaria, don't we?
We really do. When Jude claims Ilaria, it's not an act of possession or ownership.
Right. It is an act of deep, divinely appointed responsibility.
He is stepping up to love and protect her the way he was designed to.
And when Ilaria steps into her role as an Omega, she isn't submitting to Jude's will either. She is stepping into the purpose God always had for her. She is choosing compassion over fear in order to heal a broken town.
It completely changes the flavor of the romance.
It does. And for you listening, think about how incredibly rare and refreshing this is in today's media landscape.
It's almost unheard of.
Right. We live in a world where creators are constantly pressured to compromise their core values to fit whatever trend or algorithm is dominating a genre. If spice sells, authors add spice, even if it betrays their personal convictions.
It's the path of least resistance.
But Mekayla York looked at a massive, incredibly popular genre trend, decided that the underlying themes of unity, belonging, and pack were beautiful, but the toxic execution didn't align with her faith.
So she changed it.
Yes, rather than abandoning the genre or abandoning her faith, she just reshaped the entire genre to fit her values.
It is the definition of creative integrity. She proves that you can engage with popular high-drama tropes without sacrificing your spiritual convictions.
You can write about a shifter pack that actively reflects God's grace and still deliver a story that keeps readers furiously turning the pages at 2 in the morning.
Because she understands that at the end of the day, readers are looking for connection. Whether that connection is found in a quiet library or a magical forest, if the emotional core is honest and the characters treat each other with genuine reverence, the romance will resonate.
That is perfectly said.
Uh,
So, what does this all mean for us as we wrap up this deep dive into the literary universe of Mekayla York? I think her true brilliance lies in her ability to craft these incredibly engaging, pull at your heartstrings narratives while refusing to walk the easy path.
She never takes the easy way out.
No. Whether it's an assistant librarian finding true love and safety in the quiet aisles of a private library, a witch baker fighting off vampires alongside a fiercely respectful warlock, or an omega finding her fated alpha and healing her pack, faith, grace, and emotional honesty remain the beating heart of every single book.
They really do.
She is writing modern romance that leaves you feeling seen, respected, and uplifted instead of drained.
She truly is a trailblazer in that regard.
Mm.
And I want to leave you with a one final thought to roll over today as you go about your routine.
Oh, I love these. Let's hear it.
We spent this time exploring how Mekayla York took literary frameworks known for their explicit, chaotic, or toxic content, like the Omega-verse or the fated mate trope, and completely transformed them to reflect God's grace and purposeful design.
She reimagined the whole thing.
Exactly. She took the mechanics of something broken and used them to build something healing. It makes you wonder, look around your own life. What structures, daily routines, or relationship habits are you currently accepting at face value?
Oh, that's a good question.
What are you just going along with because that's how it's always been done or that's just how the culture works? What could you completely reimagine, reshape, and elevate for a higher, more beautiful purpose?
Wow. Because if a high-wire artist like Mekayla York can build a completely new, steady bridge right in the middle of a notoriously wobbly tightrope, maybe we can too.
I think we definitely can.
We just have to be willing to look at the old rules and decide we can write better ones. Until next time, keep reading, keep questioning the narrative, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.